r/AskReddit. Redditors with thin walls, what have you heard in your apartment? My upstairs neighbors taking turns zapping each other with a stun gun, hitting the floor, groaning in pain, and then laughing like Beavis and Butthead. This is a special breed of dumb. I like to think I'm smart, but I'd totally do that. It's all about training to fight electric Pokemon. I'm pretty sure I'd like your upstairs neighbors. I'd totally let myself be tossed at least once. Judging by the sounds from upstairs, you'd have to allow it way more than once to roll with their crew. Someone sneezed. We said bless you. They laughed. Damn it, Lawrence, can't you just pretend like we can't hear each other through the wall? Hey Peter, man. Check out channel 9. Two chicks at the same time. Yeah, I had that quite a few times with my neighbors of 4 years. Sometimes we'd be cooking at the same time, and shout it needs more salt or something through the wall that divided the kitchen. But shouting bless you to a big sneeze was the best fun. I gave them a key when I went traveling and they'd water my plants and collect my post. Sometimes they'd fill the fridge with bread and milk and a bottle of beer for when I returned. When my mum died, they had bought flowers for my return. For the life of me, I don't know how, but they'd chosen her favorite flowers and had as many as my mum had had children. Good neighbors. I miss them. Sometimes they'd fill the fridge with bread and milk and a bottle of beer for when I returned. I imagined you coming home to a fridge completely packed full of bread, god damn it, again. I have done nothing but teleport bread for 3 days. I've heard my neighbor giving his granddaughter a xylophone, for birthday I guess. She could play it well and kept playing for a while. Immediately after she left I could hear him trying to play something his granddaughter played. He practiced for a solid hour until he managed to play the song correctly and stopped with a joyful yes. It was one of the purest things I've ever experienced. What a wholesome break from bad music and people banging. Never heard anyone practicing the xylophone, I take it? /S. You're only with me for the crack. My next door neighbors. Edit, guys, they're not Irish. They're white trash Dartmouth folk in Nova Scotia. Yes. Yes I am. Calm down Dr. Poopoo head, you are acting very unprofessional. That's Mr. Dr. Poopoo head to you. It's not quite a neighbor story, but I used to live next to a park and you'd hear the craziest stuff from the addicts who slept there at night. My favorite was 2 guys yelling at each other around 1 a.m. when this exchange happened. You're not a road dog. You don't deserve to be a road dog. Well, you're a rapist. I still don't know what a road dog is. A road dog is a close friend. Even further, it's a friend who has your back while usually homeless or being a troublemaker/rabble-rouser. They'll watch your shit for you, they'll lie to cops for you, they'll hold the sleep spot for you. But once either of the 2 road dogs clean up their act, then it's bye-bye road doggies, thanks for the memories. Edit, forgot to mention that a lot of it is bullshit. Not always, but a lot of time it's just people using other people until they can get ahead. There's a lot of kindness on the road, to be sure. But there's also a lot of people being taken advantage of. If anybody cares for examples, I'd be happy to provide. What can only be described as my flatmate having phone sex while using Christian Bale's Batman voice. I'm Fapman. It's not the awards I received, but who I FAP to that defines me. Upstairs neighbors were a single mom and teenage daughter. They were very loud. The mom's room was above my room. One day I had off and was woken up by sex upstairs. It was pretty common in the previous couple weeks. This time, though, someone came in and started screaming. You're having sex in MYYYYY bed. Turns out the daughter had been skipping school and coming back to the apartment with her boyfriend. They were the ones having sex in the mom's bed. The fight that ensued should have earned both women awards. I have never understood having sex in your parents' bed. Like, why? Don't you have your own bed? Edit, rip my inbox, yeah weirdos. More real estate. Kid's bed is usually a twin? The whole house is free real estate. Just do it on the floor like normal kids. Rugburn. I moved from far away, so I have a different state license plate than everyone else at the apartment complex. A couple of days ago I had my upstairs neighbor drunkenly ranting to his wife about what he thinks I'm up to. He's convinced that I'm on the run from something. I'm just in grad school LMAO. Okay, but take a second to realize the opportunity you have here. I'd personally play this one out. Give vague answers when asked about your life. When walking to your car, look over both shoulders at least once a week. Fake a phone call while they're home with a vague but suspicious conversation. If you see them in the hallway, ask them if they've seen someone resembling a sketchy character you've made up. You have a chance to be truly mysterious. They'll tell stories of you for years to friends about the neighbor who may have been on the run. ETA, thanks for my first silver stranger. Very cool. Edited 3, to remove excessive thanking for the awards. Sorry, I don't know Reddit etiquette for awards, I just got caught up in the moment lol. Really do appreciate the golds, and even the silver, just BC. Good fake phone call sentences. It's in the middle of the fucking Nevada desert. Who the hell is gonna dig it up? For the last time, he's never going to know it was US. I hope you remembered to use a burner phone when you contacted them. Do like Daphne and Martin in the elevator, they never check the fake leg at customs. I lived next to a couple some years ago and they came home after a night out and started fighting about who was better at darts. I thought they were joking, but it got pretty heated. Doors were slammed. Edit, since people are asking, they were playing darts at the bar earlier that night. From what I could tell, they were playing as a team and the boyfriend wasn't pulling his weight and was super defensive about it, had an off night, allegedly. The girlfriend was mad he couldn't accept she was better. I'm no detective, but think they had some relationship issues bigger than darts. I still don't know who thought it was a good idea to combine alcohol and darts. There's this new fad of axe throwing. Axe throwing places keep popping up and they all sell alcohol. Who thought axes and alcohol should be mixed? And their insurance rates must be insane. Who thought axes and alcohol should be mixed? Danish Vikings, that's who. I lived next to a guy who took care of his disabled girlfriend. She stayed home with a nurse while he worked to support them and pay for her health care. Everyone really admired him for it. He used to get drunk and tell her that if she doesn't start putting out, he's gonna throw her ass out. How the hell did that get so grim, so fast? I know, right? Talk about mood whiplash. I was expecting something nice and now I feel like I turned hard into a wall. I was expecting a twist. I was not expecting that twist. William. We do not hit. His mom was visiting. He was 30. Poor mom, I feel bad for laughing at this. My parents told me stories about the apartment they lived in when I was a baby. The lady above us was a classically trained pianist and her music room was above my room. Apparently when I would start crying in my crib, she would start playing and I would go right to sleep. After my parents divorced, my dad stayed in the same apartment. A few years later, when I went to visit him, I was about 10 or 11, I got to finally meet her for the first time. The woman who used to play me to sleep as a baby taught me how to play the piano 10 years later. Edit, wow. Thanks for my first silver, guys. I am sad to say I retained very little from our lessons, but I can play a mean chopsticks. Edit, and gold too. Okay, that's rad. Y'all like me, you really like me. That's obscenely wholesome. Sorry about the divorce, but it's still a sweet story. Yesterday when I was taking a shit, my neighbor was blasting classical music on full volume. It was the most majestic and relaxing shit I've taken in a long time. Holy fucking shit. He wasn't having sexual relations with his turds, Mr. Poopoo head. He was just relaxed. They didn't go to med school just to be called Mr. Poopoo head, thank you very much. Pre-dawn hours, blizzard outside, everything still and quiet. My roommate and I heard our neighbor on the other side of the firewall fart, wet and deep like a stifled baritone sax, and exclaimed to himself in a twisted combination of awe and disgust, "Oh my God." We burst out laughing, and hear him chime in with pride, "Did you guys hear that?" Vindicated that his fart was heard and forever lives in our memories. This one is my favorite. My dad used to fart loudly in his sleep, and I told my sister it sounded like someone slapping a vat of butterscotch pudding. She laughed so hard she cried, peed in her pants, and woke my parents up. We were in our 20s, so it was kind of awkward. Editing to add, in the nanosecond I had, post-paternal pudding fart, I envisioned a big vat of pudding, with a hand slapping it. My dad has always only liked two kinds of pudding, and one was butterscotch, so that's what I envisioned. The other kind he likes is tapioca, and I'm glad I didn't think of it, because fundamentally, when you compare puddings, butterscotch was perfect. Tapioca would have only conjured up lumps and a shardy mess to clean up. Edit number 2. I told my dad about this post, and he was horrified that I thought a fart he'd slept through was his best. He and my mom agreed that her funeral fart, posted further down, was an award winner. Then he says, "Tell them, all Redditors, I assume, about the time your mother made seagulls fart. And how she trapped us in the room while she air shit herself. Tell em that one." My dad did, too. One night, after working a double, I was trying to be quiet making my way down the hall to my room. He ripped a violent one, and yelled, "You motherfucker." That stunk. In his sleep. I was choking trying not to lose my shit laughing. I ran face first into my door. It's been over 20 years since that incident, and I still have laughing fits over it. An argument about money while I was doing the dishes. It ended with a slammed door and one of them on a piano, hitting the keys like a maniac. Some people read, some people go get something to eat, some people exercise. This motherfucker relieves stress by going crazy on a piano. LOL. Angrily plays Mozart. LOL. I can just imagine someone with a very distressed look on their face professionally playing Mozart, and it's hilarious. The best is getting frustrated because you can't play something right and then just smashing the keys angrily, really gets all of that anger out of the system. I've heard and felt the neighbors upstairs having sex. And apparently they like to rearrange the furniture at least twice a week. My upstairs neighbors used to do the furniture moving thing. We both had studio apartments, and it was a huge mystery to me how they could move what sounded like a warehouse full of furniture for an hour in such a tiny place. I'm sure this has already been posted a million times in this thread, but I love that video so much. It is work. We often take shifts to create the illusion that nobody here sleeps. Their ceiling is our stage. I knew what this was without even having to click. I watch this as a form of therapy when I think I'm going to lose it from the people above me start clog dancing or whatever the hell it is they do up there. I've been hearing Don't Stop Believing by Journey every morning at least twice for about a month now. You shouldn't stop believing. Gina, I love you. Gina, no. Gina, damn it, put the knife down. At this point, both the apartments adjoining to Gina's called the police. Gina's husband decided to spend the night elsewhere. Can you elaborate on the story? I'm curious. Gina's husband loved her. Gina then picked up a knife. The neighbors called the police, so Gina's husband then spent the night somewhere else. Somewhere else. In heaven. I can hear when my neighbors vacuum. Our building tends to vacuum together as a result. I hear my upstairs neighbor and go, oh hey, I should vacuum, haven't done that in a while and it's already noisy. Then my downstairs neighbor and my left-hand neighbor start vacuuming. It's kinda hilarious. My right-hand neighbor doesn't vacuum with us but does sing opera while doing dishes. Do you ever run into your neighbors in the hall and be like, "Good vacuuming yesterday, huh?" Not in my house, but I travel a lot for work and stay in a lot of hotels. So far my favorite was hearing someone banging around in the shower for a while, then this exchange. Loudly, "Hey. Wash my balls." Louder, "Wash your own goddamned balls." Yelling, "Fuck you, your pussy stinks." They got quiet after that, probably because they heard me howling with laughter and realized people could hear them. We stopped at a hotel for the night on a road trip and didn't realize how awful it was until we arrived. Since we were only going to be there 12 hours total, we decided just to stay. Oh man, this one woman would start screaming and arguing with someone else, talking in a calm voice, every 30 minutes to an hour. She'd calm down, and then suddenly she'd be screaming again. Never again. I woke up one morning in a daze, started walking down my stairs. I live in a townhouse/condo, and paused and farted, way louder than I expected. My neighbor next door started laughing so hard from her living room. I once interrupted my neighbor's sexcapades with a rather gigantic fart. Dude was not amused and I was treated to incessant door slamming for the rest of the night. Well, I mean, you're supposed to be quiet when you're watching. Our neighbors were once talking loud and I was nosy, so I put my ear up to the wall and realized she was reading him Harry Potter pretty enthusiastically, and it made my heart melt. "Did you ask for them to keep reading when they stopped?" He left an unobtrusive note on her bathroom mirror asking when she'll read again. "Don't worry, next time there's some steam, she'll see it." My dad snoring like a bear, and my mum snoring like a walrus. If they argue, they snore out of sync, and if they have a nice day they snore in sync. It's really quite sweet. Thanks for all the likes and comments, everyone. I really didn't expect this to blow up in the way it has. What? First heartbeats, now snoring? You should hear them fucking. Couple upstairs would argue frequently. One particular evening, they had an epic battle. It was hours long. About 2 hours into the argument, 11 p.m. on a weeknight, we heard the woman shout first of all. That was the moment we knew sleeping wouldn't be restful that night. That was the moment we knew sleeping wouldn't be restful that night. Reason number 19 I think you're the worst is how you wash the fucking dinner plates. You're the type of person who doesn't wash the bottom of a dinner plate. I read it a long time ago but it sticks in my mind. It's such a specific insult but it says so much about a person. I actually manage an apartment complex where my office is surrounded by a one-bedroom unit. The building is old and the walls are thin. The tenant that used to live in the unit was a quiet man but would frequently sing beautiful opera music. His voice was amazing and I loved it every time I heard him sing. Then one time I saw him in the halls and made the mistake of asking if he was the one who sang these beautiful opera songs. His face turned red but he confirmed that it was him. I told him that I always enjoyed it when I heard him sing and that it would always brighten my day. Never should have said anything because I never heard him sing again. I had a neighbor who was a professional opera singer. While chatting one day I made a comment about her singing. She got embarrassed and said she would start practicing in her bedroom or another location so as to not bother me. I had to all but beg her not to do such a thing as I thoroughly enjoyed it. What a shame. My landlord fucking his wife couple of times per week, she screamed like a porn star. They were on the first floor and I was on the second one. Sometimes if I'd walk above their bedroom and they heard it they'd stop for a couple of seconds and go right back to Boner Town after. Edit, forgot something. So yeah, we were 3 guys living in the apartment and we'd often invite some girls over, friends, to have dinner and drinks, but we would usually stay up pretty late and it would be in the middle of the week, pretty much once a week. They were the kind of girls who laugh/talk pretty loud, and our landlord asked us if we were having orgies, He wasn't even kidding. Didn't know how to respond to that, so we just laughed it off and kept him wondering. I felt kinda bad for a previous neighbor of mine. A few times a week he got to hear my BF plowing me like a cornfield. I did my best to be quiet, but was told he could hear the different positions I was so loud. That must have been an awkward conversation. My ex-neighbors never let their kids leave the house, and preferred to raise bubble children. The older son, 12 or 13, was pitifully fragile. One day I heard him crying because he shit on his own hands. He shit on his own hands. Wait. What? You gonna just let your turds fall into the toilet and splash? You shit into your hand and then put it in the water. Edit, for those of you confused. How do you even manage that level of stupidity? On both the parents and the kids' end. I'm not thinking stupidity, but rather abuse. I've met people that were absolutely terrified of using the bathroom because of their parents. I could hear my neighbor fart, and when her phone went off on vibrate. It was like having roommates I couldn't see. Oh, I thought they were connected. Every time her phone went off, she farted. Heard my neighbors having sex when I lived in my previous apartment. Our bedrooms shared a wall. This in itself is not unusual. It was like, give me your fucking baby. Make me pregnant, daddy, waking me up at 2 a.m. that killed my soul. Poor architectural design. Never let bedrooms share a wall if possible. My flatmates and I had a joke that if someone used the upstairs washroom we would shout, "Are ya poopin'?" One day someone above our top floor, the third floor was studio apartments, screamed, "How the hell do you always know?" Edit, holy shit. I did not expect this. Thanks for the gold, silver, and upvotes. Reminds me of when me and my GF first got together and she was pooping and I heard it make the plop, so I joking said, Are you pooping?" and she panickingly replied, "No, just putting stuff in the toilet." I didn't call her out on it, but now whenever I need a shit I tell her I need to go put stuff in the toilet. Edit, I am obliged to make this edit and thanks /u/caps lock for the gold, thanks stranger. How do I put it to good use? Years ago I had an upstairs neighbor. At 2 a.m., every night, I would hear something sprint across the entire apartment. I realized three things: it was very fast, it took small strides, and it never deviated from its path. One day, I saw my neighbor outside and I said, "I don't know how you have energy at 2 a.m. He responded with, "Dude, I've been working the midnight to 8 a.m. shift for 15 years. Doesn't bother me at all." That night, I watched him leave his house, drive off, and waited 2 hours. At exactly 2 a.m., I heard what sounded like 2 feet hit the floor in his bedroom, and the marathon started. A few weeks later, I see him outside. I tell him what I hear at night and he says, "That's strange, no one has my keys, it's just me and my rabbit up there." I got really scared it was a ghost or a creepy murderer living in the attic, but now that it was a bunny it's pretty sweet. Unless it's a white killer rabbit. More what my neighbor heard: I'm a deep sleeper and was an even deeper sleeper as a teenager. My phone alarm was going off for 30 minutes and my neighbors could hear it through the walls, assumed it was a burglar alarm and called the police. Waking up to the police banging on my door was confusing. The alarm worked, just in a roundabout way. Task failed successfully. Honestly, I'm jealous you can sleep this deep. Well, I hear my neighbors having sex quite often, but a few weeks ago I literally heard a full-on divorce. Maybe you only heard one of your neighbors having sex. One day my neighbor was spontaneously singing the national anthem, America, and stopped midline and cussed because they messed up the words. So I sang the correct next line and they burst out laughing before coming back in and finishing the song with me. I've still never met that neighbor. 10/10 voice. I try to do this if I know the lyrics to a song. Don't really have a great voice though. My male neighbor from India belting out Hello by Adele at the top of his lungs. It was magical. I love when I hear people sing. My last apartment had particularly weak walls between apartments. One night I was reading in bed and I was unknowingly the third party to a particularly nasty fight between the couple living next door. The fight lasted for almost an hour and was apparently the end of their said relationship, as she was going to leave him and the apartment the next day. The longer the fight went on, the more interested I became as I pieced snippets of the reason for the fight together. I did not know them personally, only enough to wave and say hi, help them with carrying up groceries, etc. Good neighbor stuff. It seemed couple A, both early 30s, were becoming bored with their sex life. For whatever reason they decided that they would fulfill a fantasy of theirs and invite a third individual to join them sexually. Male A and female A found through some online means male B to join them. I guess things worked out for a while. From the snippets of the fight I caught, male B had joined them on multiple occasions for various sexual escapades. The kicker was female A came home early from a work trip and found male A and male B deeply engrossed in their sexual acrobatics without her. Female A flipped out, and I guess after that point they tried to patch things up, but she caught both of them on 2 other occasions, the latest being the night before fight night that I was unashamedly listening to. Neither neighbor would hold my gaze for long the next morning. I think they were too embarrassed or ashamed to ask if I had heard anything and presumed I heard it all. I even offered to carry a box of stuff she was lugging out of the apartment, remember good neighbor. She mumbled something and said no. He was packed, moved out and gone a week later. Needless to say, it was the most interesting thin-walled apartment experience I have had the vicarious pleasure to be part of. Edit, thanks for the interest and replies folks, and the kind stranger in silver. Wish I could tell you what happened as a follow-up, but alas I have no idea what happened to the troubled trinity in the tryst. Edit, my humble thanks to the gracious golden guest for your gift, gracias.